Self-love is one of the most important things you can have in this world. So easy to hate yourself, especially if you were someone who was bullied as a kid or had a bad family life. Self-hate grows on you. You hear all the time, you should love yourself, or self-love is important, but you don't really realize how important it is until you finally face yourself in the mirror and realize that your own self-hate has been one of the biggest contributing factors to things going wrong in your life, leading to more self-hate. It took me until I was 24 to realize that hating myself and being insecure was causing me to lash out and be negative in a way that pushed people away and made me feel lonely. That loneliness then gave me the ability to have the logical fallacy that I deserved to hate myself. Undoing that? Hard as hell. But it became easy when I sat down and wrote myself a love letter. I pretended that I was someone I loved. I had to look at myself as someone else. What I realized was that I thought higher of others than myself, and I treated others better than I treated myself. I needed to figure out why, but in the meantime, I could use that knowledge to pretend. Pretend that I was someone else in my life. So I wrote myself a love letter, as if I was someone in my life that I loved. I recorded a video of myself talking to myself as if I was someone else, and I cried. I finally heard the words from someone that I always needed. I needed someone to love me unconditionally. My loneliness needed that. That was when I realized how important self-love really was. Why it is so important. Because if you can't love yourself, how could anyone else? The only real way to stop being lonely and stop losing people you care about in life is to love yourself the way you know you deserve to be loved, so that others may love you too. I won't sit around and pretend like loving yourself is some easy thing to do, or like it's essentially the only magic bullet in the world that will solve all your problems. At the end of the day, even though I started to work on loving myself nearly 2 years ago now, it didn't fix all my problems overnight. I didn't just suddenly become a better person, and people didn't just suddenly treat me better. That being said, it was the most important thing that I've ever done in my life. And it was a start to self-betterment in a way that was actually self-bettering. I've been obsessed with self-betterment for a very long time in my life. I've watched many videos about self-betterment. I've listened to people talk about bettering themselves. And I've taken lots of action and thought a lot about myself, trying to become a better person. Whether that be my behaviors, my motivation, whatever it might be. I've tried a lot, and I failed a lot. But things started to get better at the end of 2021 when I finally sat down and wrote myself that love letter. When I finally sat down, turned on the camera, and started recording. I told myself a lot of things, and looking at myself as if I was looking in the mirror, and doing a little dissociating to pretend that I was looking at someone else and telling them my real feelings about them, was a life-changing moment for me. I remember crying when I heard myself say, "Zach, I am your biggest fan. I know you can do it." Those were words that I had never heard from someone else. And quite frankly, I didn't really believe it when I said it. But I knew it's what I needed to hear. I knew it's what I wanted to hear. And so I told myself everything that I wanted to hear. Everything that I needed to hear. Everything that someone who loved me would tell me. I just sat there and I pretended. I pretended like I am not me right now. I am speaking as someone who loves me. In the same way, it was as if I was thinking, this person who I'm speaking to is a person who I love more than anything in the world. What would I say to them? And that That moment changed my life. It really did. I started to become easier on myself. My stress levels dropped dramatically. I stopped lashing out at people as much. My insecurity started to go away. Because here's the thing about insecurity. Insecurities really are just a projection of things that you hate about yourself, right? You know, I hate how I look. I hate how I sound. I hate the way I speak. I hate my opinions. But what I realized is you start to become way less insecure when you start to love yourself. Because just like when you love someone in real life who isn't you, you give them a pass. You forgive them. You give them room to grow. That was one of the biggest things about learning self-love that was so important to me. Forgiving myself for all of the mistakes that I had made in my past. One of the reasons I hated myself was because I've made so many mistakes in life. But we all have. And you know, when my friends make mistakes, I say, hey, that's okay. You'll get it next time. Well, at least you learned something. But when I made a mistake, it was like it's the end of the world. How could I be so stupid? How could I be so naive? Why did I have to make that mistake to learn? I'm such a dumbass. But not anymore. It's almost like magic. Learning to love yourself is learning to forgive yourself for all of the mistakes that you make in life. It's learning to understand that you are a human being and you are allowed to make mistakes. You are allowed to be imperfect, just like everyone else in this world. Just like all of your friends. Just like everyone you care about. And you're going to keep making mistakes because you're human. If you had knowledge of how to live perfectly, you would be unlike anyone else in this world. And you would be a divine deity. But you aren't. You're a person. And that's okay.